Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time being here, thank you so much for being here. Um, if you like what you hear, if you like this content, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. Click like, comment, click the notification button so that you can get notified when I upload new material. My aim, my intention is very simple. It's to help you come home to yourself. Because when you come home to yourself, you essentially come home to your true power. And I have not met anyone yet who said to me, Joanna, help me be less powerful. That never happens. We all want to feel empowered. But the truth is that power lives within us, with each and every single person. So if you are wishing to feel more empowered, to come more home to yourself, I hope that what you get from this is going to be very helpful. For those of you returning, thank you so much for being here. I always say without you, I wouldn't do what I do, and I absolutely love what I do. And what I do is I connect with the field, and I let the field move through me with words, energy, so that it can have a recalibrating effect on your energetic field and on your nervous system. How that works, we can get into in a different conversation, but that's essentially my function as Joanna in this body, in this particular lifetime. So thank you so much for being here, because without you, I wouldn't do this. And I absolutely love what I do. And I know not too many people can say that they love what they do for a living. This is what I do for a living. And this feels like home to me. So today I'm going to talk about a little bit of an uncomfortable subject. And it's very big, it's very prevalent right now, it's in our face. And it's important to talk about it because whatever is coming up to the surface, collectively speaking, and individually, is coming up for a reason. It's coming up to be seen, to be witnessed, and to ultimately be transmuted. So the pain that we are seeing collectively is coming up in order to be transmuted. How do we transmute pain? It's very simple, but not easy. Through love. And although it might sound very cliche, love heals. It just does. So I want to share with you what has been coming up for me over the next several days. And I was a little bit apprehensive about recording this video because I never create content in order to create drama. My intention is to bring you more peace. So even though the subject is very dramatic, the aim here is not to create more drama. The aim is to bring healing. So what's coming up, and it's probably very evident to you recently, is the collective shadow of sexual distortion. And distortion of sexual power or distortion of sexual energy is distortion of power, because sexual energy is a life force. And when we disconnect from our true selves, that power, that life force, is often hijacked by the ego. And as you know, power in the wrong hands can be and often is very destructive. And we are seeing this, it's in our faces. So ultimately, the reason why I'm recording this is because I want to bring more healing into this area. Not more drama, not more rah rah. It's to bring healing to the subject, to this subject. So you may not be watching TV, you may not be watching news, but you probably have heard of the Epstein files. Just saying that I know exactly what you mean, or you know exactly what I mean. And this is coming up to the surface for a reason. It's coming up to be seen as a collective shadow. So there's a lot of collective shadow coming up right now, especially around sexuality, power, and safety. And it's coming up for healing. And it can feel overwhelming, heavy, but it's actually a profound opportunity for us to heal. And I'll share with you some personal experiences that have been preparing me for this, unbeknownst to me then. And the reason why it's coming up and ways to heal it. And again, the reason why it's coming up, the reason why it's in our faces, because we have to face the shadow in order to bring light to it. When you bring light or love to shadow, it's no longer a shadow. It can be integrated. But if we turn away from it, if we feed it with more anger and disgust, we are actually feeding it. And I experienced this, what it means to feed it, in my last Peru retreat. So I'll talk about that a little bit, but here's a little bit of a background. So yesterday I was doing a recalibration with my group. And what I've noticed is that the frequency, the intelligence of the field was very much concentrated on the first three chakras. And what that was telling me is that a lot of healing is taking place in the first three chakras: the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus. And root is all about safety, survival. Sexual chakra is about creativity, emotions, and of course, solar plexus is about power and boundaries. So I knew that what was being worked on, if you will, or cleared, was a lot of distortions in the first three chakras, especially the second chakra, which is the sexual energy center. And because it was so obvious and visible to me, I also knew that collectively we are going through an energetic clearing of the first three chakra centers, and predominantly, or a lot of it, has to do with our sexual energy. So you might be experiencing some stuff coming up to the surface. We are clearly seeing it on the outside, like the Epstein files. And it can feel an emotionally volatile time, because think of it as clearing house. You just did renovations and your house is a mess. It's full of dust, dirt, whatever. So before you can enjoy the newness of your place, you have to first do the cleanup. And that, I don't know about you, but I've gone through house renovation and God, I wouldn't do it again. It's a mess. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of displacement. In fact, I'll share this with you. When we were going through our own house renovations, because everything was ripped up, every single floor, everywhere, the only place I had to hide was my own little tiny bathroom. And I felt very displaced. I had nowhere to go but my little tiny box. And this is almost like a representation of what we might be feeling right now. You might be feeling like you're going through some energetic cleanup and it's feeling uncomfortable. Healing is rarely comfortable. When you have a wound on your skin and it begins to heal, part of the process is often the pus that comes up, the gunk, the toxicity. And if you've ever looked at a wound that is infected, yeah, it's not a pretty sight. So when we begin to heal, oftentimes stuff will come up. And it doesn't look very good. It doesn't particularly feel very good, but it is very much part of the process of clearing and healing. So we could say that on a collective level, we are seeing a lot of toxicity coming up to the surface around distortion of power and distortion of sexual energy. So you might have some vivid dreams, you might feel emotional ups and downs, you may feel emotional waves or memories surfacing. That's not a sign that you're regressing or you're going back. That's a sign of things coming up so they can be witnessed and moved through or alchemized. And I will share with you how to do that. We'll go through it. So because this is what's being focused on from the field's perspective in terms of healing, because what's being focused on is the first three chakras, predominantly the sacral chakra, it means that we are doing a lot of healing and clearing around sexual energy, which is life force. And as you probably know, the sexual energy has been distorted, vilified, bastardized, and any other name that you want to put on it. But essentially what it means is that humanity collectively holds distortions around power. And we're seeing that, right? So I'll share with you, okay, thank you. Part of my work as a field recalibrator, I'll use that term, is to help people move beyond their stories. But it's not through reliving stories. It's not through traumatizing or re-traumatizing. It's through moving energy through the physical body. I can't quite explain to you how I do that, because my mind can't really grasp it yet, because it's not for the mind to grasp. Thank you. I don't understand exactly how it works. I just know that it works. Here's the reason why I'm saying that to you. If you have experienced trauma, especially sexual trauma, like I have, to heal it does not mean that you have to endlessly get lost in a story, that you have to talk about the story, that you have to relive the story, that you have to relive the feelings and emotions, that you have to relive the horror. No. Healing does not mean you have to do that. The healing that happens through this container happens on an energetic level. So if you have any unhealed wounds around sexual trauma, the field wants you to know that yes, you can heal this in this lifetime, and no, you don't have to go through the trauma again. You don't have to immerse yourself in the shadow. But you do have to become aware of this shadow. Every single one has a shadow. It's just the way it is. And because the collective shadow is around sexual distortion and power distortion, likely you too have some shadow around sexuality and power. I know I had, probably still do a little bit. But I want to say this, and it's so important for me to say this. We are at a time where tremendous amount of healing can take place in a very short time. And what I'm getting from the field is this analogy. What used to take people 10 years to heal can take months or even few weeks. That's because the energy is very supportive of this healing. We're in a time where a lot of healing can take place in a very short period of time. And I remember what I said at the very beginning. Healing isn't often comfortable. So as we are healing these collective and personal shadow wounds, we're bound to feel uncomfortable. That's just the way it is. The more we are uncomfortable, the more it's a sign that we are stretching beyond what was. So healing involves and includes expansion of our energetic field. What happens is when you expand your energetic field, you come more home to yourself. You come more home to yourself. Here's what happens when you come home to yourself. You feel at peace with yourself. You feel whole. You feel, not just know, but you feel that you matter. You know, not with your mind, but with your body, that you are a soul having a human experience. And without your unique perspective, the universe would not be the same. That's how much you matter. It doesn't mean your ego gets rah, rah, rah. It actually means when you come home to yourself, your ego gets quieter. When you come more home to yourself, your ego gets quieter. And what we are seeing with this collective distortion, the shadow of the distortion or sexuality, is people who are involved in these acts are those who have completely disconnected from their true selves. Because someone who's connected to their divinity, to their true self, will never, ever pose a harm to another person, because it goes against who we are. It goes against who we are. So when the shadow runs the show, bad things happen. And we are seeing the evidence of that. But the idea isn't to vilify these people, although it's hard not to do. The idea is to help bring a higher level of understanding, of wisdom, that at the end of the day, those who do these heinous acts at a soul level are absolutely perfect, at a soul level. At a human level, they're in distortion. And when the ego runs the show, and ego is very selfish, and when there is power involved, bad things can and often happen, as evident by what's going on. But again, the idea isn't to bring more vilification, it's to bring more healing. So first and foremost, to see everyone at the core of their soul as perfect. There's no such thing as a bad soul or as a bad person. Yes, people do heinous things. But there's no such thing as a bad person. It's a person who has disconnected from their divinity. And what we are trying to do is we're trying to heal the disconnection. How? By coming home to yourself. Remember, power lives within you, not outside of you. 2 years ago, in one of my Peru ceremonies, I was made to experience, not the right choice of words, but I experienced the collective energy of sexual trauma, especially involving children. And I felt both the energy of the victim and the perpetrator. I cannot begin to tell you with words how incredibly horrific it felt. There's no word to describe it. I've never felt anything like it. It was so bad, and there was no way for me to run away from it because it was in my body. It wasn't a physical pain, it was emotional pain, but it's unlike something I've never experienced. And I hope I never do again in my life. It was so horrific that at one point I said, I'd rather die. I'd rather die. I don't want to go through it. I'd rather die. But the medicine man was holding my hand and he just kept saying, you're doing it, you're doing it, you're doing it. So when this energy was moving through me, I knew that this was a collective energy and how prevalent it still is. And I don't remember how long it lasted. It was not 5 minutes. It was probably an hour. And I was on the ground just absolutely cringing and going through, my body was going through almost like a detox. It was flopping all over the place. It was just, you get the picture. While it was happening, I had the idea come to mind to ask the question, what do these perpetrators do by doing these heinous acts with children? And what I received was, it was to somehow gain power. And to this day, I don't quite get it, but on some level I do. It was almost like siphoning off the innocence of children, because somehow that feeds their ego. Now, as I'm thinking about it, I'm going, okay, I think it's starting to make sense, because innocence, when children are innocent, they're just fully in their, they're just being themselves. They're just here. Innocence. They're pure. Thank you. They're pure. So it's almost as if these perpetrators feed on the purity of the children in order for them to feel more powerful. There's no words to describe how wrong it is. We don't have to go through that. I think it's unnecessary. Everyone knows. But it showed me how prevalent it still is. And I didn't understand why I had to go through that experience, aside from the fact that part of my function in this world is to help clear collective energy, collective shadow. And that's done through the body. Apparently, I have a nervous system designed in such a way that I'm able to do it without fracturing or going mental. Not many people can, just part of my design. And I've spent years making my nervous system stronger so that I could do this without collapsing. So that was 2 years ago. And I remember I was having such a hard time. Like I said, at one point I said, I'd rather die. I'd rather die. But I didn't. Well, probably part of me died. And once I moved through it, what I experienced was the absolute literal opposite. I experienced unconditional love. And in contrast to that, what I was moving through energetically, it was so big and so potent that it almost felt like I couldn't handle it. It was just because it's energy. And the voice, I had beings working with me, and one of the beings said, or the voice said to me, now you can receive, now you can relax. And then I basked in this feeling. I don't know for how long. I would have liked to stay there my entire life, but then I wouldn't be doing this right now. So that was 2 years ago. And I didn't understand why it was being shown to me or why I had to go through it other than to help transmute the collective shadow. Last November, 3 months ago or so, I was in another Peru ceremony. And I was, again, moving through a lot, but it felt different. Some of the things that I was moving was the shadow of guilt and shame. Not necessarily sexual shame and guilt, but just guilt and shame in general. And I was moving a lot of energy. And when that happens, in my particular case, it always happens, is I'm convulsing. And there's so much energy moving through me that my body's convulsing. It looks like I'm having a seizure. But I've learned that it's fine and I'm not scared during the process. But to the outside, it looks like I'm having a seizure. But anyway, and no, it's not that uncomfortable. I mean, a little bit, yes, but I can handle it. So once I moved the energy of shame and guilt, and it was interesting because I didn't have to feel it. It's not like the first time where I actually had to feel everything. I didn't have to feel it. I just knew this is what was moving through me and my body was doing its thing. So the healing was happening on an energetic level, and I didn't have to go through the ordeal of facing the guilt and shame, whatever it's attached to, which I thought was like, I like this. I like this. But they're saying to me, the only reason why I was able to move it that way without getting lost in the feeling is because the first time 2 years ago, I cleared my body. Okay, that makes sense. I cleared my energetic field. So once I released the guilt and shame, something interesting came. And what I was shown is the collective distortion of sexual energy. I can't explain to you how I saw it. I knew it and I kind of saw it, but it wasn't a mind thing. It was in my body. I just knew. And it was shocking because, well, first it surprised me why I was being shown that. And it was shocking because I saw how prevalent it is. Shocking how prevalent it is. And one of the questions I asked the field was, like, what's causing all this? What's the root of it? And what came to me made sense is that part of it, if not a lot of it, has to do with religion. I'm not vilifying religion. That's not what I'm saying, but this is what I was shown. It makes sense to me because of certain views of certain religions around sexuality and sexual energy. And what I saw, felt, knew, was that how much of it involves children. And a voice came to me, clear as day, that said, see it through the eyes of love. See it through the eyes of love. And I kept repeating it. I see it through the eyes of love. I see it through the eyes of love. And what happened was very interesting because I was able to witness it without feeding it any energy. And then something incredible happened. I saw these beings they're not human-like, they're just beings. Like, they're distortions, but they're living, breathing entities. And I saw these entities feeding on that distortion. I've heard of this before, but I've never experienced it. I experienced it. And I was looking at it, feeding on all that distortion and all that energy. And it was looking at me. It was looking at me. And what it was looking for was to see if I was going to be disgusted, if I was going to be angry, if I was going to feel all this rage. And because I didn't, because I kept saying, I only see through the eyes of love, I didn't feed the energy. It was unbelievable. I was like, this is insane. I mean, I've heard of beings feeding on people's fear and that, and some people call the energy louche, I think. I've heard of that, but I've never actually seen it. I saw it. And I was a little bit shocked by it because I didn't realize how real it is. But at the same time, it allowed me to see it from a space of, I almost want to say neutrality, compassion, but neutrality. And I realized when I see it through the eyes of love, when I don't project my own disgust or fear, which, by the way, couldn't have happened if I didn't let go or healed or moved the energy of guilt and shame, okay? If I didn't clear that, I would be projecting it. In that moment, I realized that when we see through the eyes of love, which doesn't mean condoning what's being done. That's not what it means. But when we see things from the eyes of love, we are no longer feeding that collective distortion. And that was profound to me because, for one, the realization that if I project my own stuff, unhealed wounds on the situation, I'm actually, in a way, if not making it worse, I'm feeding it so it keeps on going on and on and on. Now, we don't want that, obviously. We want to not have that. So here's the message. An invitation to notice if you can start to see it from the eyes of love. Here's how. By remembering that every single soul at its very essence is pure. Every single soul at its very essence, it's pure. The individuals too who do these heinous crimes are people who are hijacked by their shadows. They're disconnected from their divinity. So yes, they are doing horrible things, but it's only because of their disconnection. Because like I said earlier, a person who's connected to divinity, their divinity, will never do that. It's never going to happen. So seeing through the eyes of love does not mean that we ignore the harm. It doesn't mean we avoid accountability or there should be avoidance of accountability. It doesn't mean spiritual bypassing. It simply means witnessing through the eyes of highest consciousness, through the eyes of love, God, universe, field, whatever name you want to use. Because remember, the field doesn't see us as bad people. The field sees us as perfect souls having an embodied experience. So from the highest space, from the field perspective of unconditional love, there is no judgment. Now, that's not an easy thing to do when you are witnessing something so heinous being done especially to those who are much more vulnerable. It doesn't mean you can't have rage. It doesn't mean you can't have anger. It just means let it move through you. Don't hold on to it. Come back to your space. Come back to your divinity. So the best thing you can do for yourself and for this planet is to allow yourself to heal your own shadows, your own distortions. We all have them. We all have them. It's not a bad thing. It's just part of being a human. And allowing yourself to go through this process through the eyes of love, forgiveness, compassion. So the moral of the story is this. In order for us not to see these things being done again, in order for that to be transmuted, we have to come home to ourselves. Because when we come home to ourselves, when we come home to our essence, to our divinity, we have the ability to look at things from a higher perspective and without judgment and without projecting. And when we don't project, we don't feed that energy that we ultimately want to see gone. So by healing ourselves, we help heal the collective. Because we're all connected. We're all part of one. We're all connected. So the best thing you can do to help the world heal is to go through your own healing process with compassion, with love, with deep understanding. So this is what you might be feeling over the next little while. And thank you for reminding me. If you are interested in a 2026 recalibration, which is a recalibration to your energetic field, essentially, it's being offered until the end of March, and then not until 2027. If you're interested in what that is, or if it interests you, there's a link down below. Feel free to take a look and connect if that's what you feel like. So as we're going through this recalibration collectively, here's some of the things you might be experiencing. Emotional ups and downs. New feelings surfacing. Old memories around safety, power, or intimacy. Sensations in your lower back, hips, or lower belly. This is what I've been experiencing. And then actually, when I was doing the recalibration with my group, there were several people that have said they had lower back pain, and after the recalibration, it was gone. I thought that was pretty cool. So you might feel a sense of restlessness, vulnerability, or deep release. You might have really vivid dreams. Think of it as your cells venting. Your body is venting. Your body is purging of, let's call these energetic toxins. Okay, we're not judging it. We're just saying you're purging energetic toxins, right? When that happens, if it happens, be gentle with yourself. Be kind with yourself. Here's some practical ways to see through the eyes of love, because I said I need to give people some ideas what it means to see through the eyes of love. Because again, when I see something like that being happening, I'm not just zenned out and I have no feelings or emotions. Oh, I do, big time. I go on full rage and anger, but at the same time, I'm able to pull myself back and realize that what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing, what I'm witnessing is a collective distortion. A distortion that is the result of disconnection from oneself. So I still have a human experience, but I'm able to also hold this other awareness. So I am in experience of both. It's not about denying what you're feeling, justified anger, whatever. It's not about denying that. It's about not staying in there for too long. Because if we stay there for too long, we're just feeding it. So one of the ways to see through eyes of love is practicing radical self-honesty. It's not an easy one. When you're triggered by the world or your own story, ask yourself the question, what is being revealed in me? When you're feeling triggered, when you're seeing things and you're being triggered, just ask yourself the question, what is revealing in me? And you may or may not get an answer, but the fact that you're asking the question, you're shifting your focus. You're no longer focusing on the outside. You're now bringing yourself to your inside. And remember, your power is inside of you. It's a very empowering thing to do, to ask yourself that question. What is it within me that arises? For me, because I have had a level of, what's the word? Sexual abuse. Things like that we're seeing in the world naturally would trigger that in me. Okay? Abuse of power, that would be triggered in me. But I've done enough of my own shadow processing where that is no longer driving the show. Meeting yourself with compassion. Gently witnessing your own dark feelings without turning away or judging. If there is shame that you carry, if you carry guilt, just notice it. Don't judge it. Because it may not be yours, it may be something that's collective, and you are helping the collective by moving it through your body. Okay? So you might be a field recalibrator where your function as a soul is to help planet Earth transmute a lot of dense energy. This is part of what I do. Okay? It's not a logical thing, it's energetic. So you might be moving some energy through you, some things may be coming up for you, and it may not even be yours. But the more you can meet yourself with compassion, the more you can meet yourself with love, the faster the healing takes place. Before speaking or acting from outrage or disgust, pause, breathe, and just say, I'm seeing through the eyes of love. I'm seeing through these eyes of love. Don't deny your rage or anger, but bring yourself back by seeing through the eyes of love. And what you'll notice is, in a very short while, that anger, whatever it is, it will begin to soften. Not because you're fighting it, not because you're resisting it, but because you are bringing your awareness back to your soul, because your soul sees through the eyes of love. So you are actually connecting more back into your soul. The more you connect to your own body and your heart, the less you contribute to the collective distortion. The more you connect to your body and your heart, the less you feed the collective distortion. And the less we feed the collective distortion, it's like a weed. If nothing is feeding the weed eventually dies. Okay? Rest, drink good quality water, eat well, move gently. Let any emotions move through you. Remember, we are clearing a collective shadow. Some of you may have some ideas of a religious nature that may come up to you. Something that had you deny your own sexual power. Okay? Whatever that means to you. I mean, we did mention earlier that a lot of this distortion, sexual distortion, has to do with certain religion. Okay? I just heard, religion is not the problem. It's those in power who make religions something it is not. And not all religion, of course, but many. Remember, power in the wrong hands can be very disastrous. And we often look up to religious figures. But remember, many of the religious figures also come with distortions because they're humans. Every single human has distortion. It's to what level of distortion is the human functioning from that makes the difference. I still have my distortions. There are still things that are distorted. To be a human being, my consciousness has to be distorted. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a human experience. So some distortion, it's okay. It becomes a problem when the shadow runs the show. Okay. And remember, the more the shadow runs the show, the more you're being hijacked by your ego. The way to not be hijacked by your ego is come home to yourself, come home to your heart, come home to your own inner source. And remember, source is within you. Source is everywhere. Some people call it God, give it different name. So it's a field of very high vibrating frequency. It's consciousness itself. It's everywhere, including in your cells and in your DNA. And your body knows that. Your body remembers that. But we will never really be able to remember it in an embodied way, not conceptually, but in an embodied way, unless we come back to our bodies, to our heart. And many people are not comfortable in their bodies because they store a lot of unprocessed emotions. This is the work that I do. I help people process unprocessed energy, not by getting them stuck in a story again, not by helping them understand. There's no need to understand. It's good, but it's not necessary. By moving the energy through. So if this is something that interests you, there's a link down below. And I think that's all I have for you. So I hope this was helpful. I feel that was very needed to talk about. Like I said, I don't create content to get clicks. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just not my cup of tea. My content is always aimed at empowerment and helping bring someone back to themselves versus being focused on drama, trauma. And I don't mean that I am ignorant to it, but I don't want to feed it. But I hope that this came through, not in a way of feeding what we're seeing, but in a way to help us recalibrate and ultimately heal that which we are seeing. And what does healing really mean? Thank you. It's coming back to oneness, coming back home to yourself, coming back home to your identity, to your divinity. That's what healing is, back to balance. To be both a soul with a human form. So with that said, I hope this was helpful. If you would like to comment and let me know how this resonated with you, I would be very grateful. If you would like to share this with somebody who you feel might benefit from it, I would also be very grateful in the field. And if you feel like you are guided or resonate to work with me in the field, you'll know. Your body will tell you. There's information down below. I always say, your soul will find my soul if there is an alignment. And when that happens, you'll know it. That's it. So with that said, thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you again. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. It helps to make this channel more visible to other people. And I truly believe that what I bring is of importance. And it's in my own unique flavor. So with that said, thank you again so much. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.